Today we're going over every level of former Heisman Trophy winners, speaking on how they performed in the league after getting drafted, from former winners that didn't live up to expectations all the way to those who became some of the best players in NFL history. Let's start with level 1.
Level 1, awful.
This group is full of some awful NFL players. Each level after this will be better and better players until we reach some of the best of all time. Starting with Johnny Manziel, one of the biggest draft busts in NFL history. Johnny Football made history in 2012 as the first freshman to ever win a Heisman Trophy. At Texas A&M, he was absolutely electric, throwing for 3,419 yards and 24 touchdowns while adding 1,100 rushing yards and 19 more scores, and led the Aggies to that legendary upset 29-24 against Alabama in Tuscaloosa. But his NFL career? A complete disaster. Selected 22nd overall by Cleveland in 2014, Manziel went 2-6 as a starter with just 1,675 passing yards and 7 TDs over 2 seasons. His all-field partying and complete lack of professionalism made him a walking disaster. He was out the league by 24, a legendary college star turned legendary bust. Another former college star was Matt Leinart. Leinart became USC's 6th Heisman winner in 2004 as a redshirt junior. He was absolutely dominant that season, completing 65% of his passes for 3,322 yards and 33 touchdowns. He led the Trojans to an undefeated season in their second consecutive national championship. Despite his college success at USC, Leinart couldn't handle NFL speed and complexity. He went 10th overall to the Arizona Cardinals in 2006, and his 7-10 record as a starter over 6 seasons shows he never developed into the franchise QB Arizona had hoped for. His 4,065 passing yards and 15 touchdowns represents minimal production for a top 10 pick. His quick fall from starter to backup shows how thoroughly he failed. Someone always pegged to be a backup was Troy Smith. Smith won Ohio State's step landslide, receiving 86.7% of the vote, the second highest percentage in award history. He was absolutely sensational that year, completing 67% of his passes for 2,507 yards and 30 touchdowns, leading the Buckeyes to an undefeated 12-0 regular season and 14 consecutive weeks as the #1 team in the nation. But nobody really expected him to be a top-level QB. He was selected in the 5th round by the Baltimore Ravens in 2007. Smith's 4-4 record as a starter and completing just 51% of his passes shows he also never really developed. With just 1,734 career passing yards and 8 TDs against 5 interceptions, he bounced between Baltimore and San Francisco, never really finding consistency. By age 26, he was essentially done in the NFL. Smith wasn't really supposed to start or be franchise-altering, however, someone who was supposed to do all that was Andre Ware. Ware won Houston's first Heisman in 1989 by virtue of one of the greatest passing seasons in NCAA history at that time. He threw for 4,699 yards and 46 touchdowns while completing 63% of his passes, setting 26 NCAA records in that process. What made his Heisman even more historic was he was the first African-American QB to ever win the award. However, unfortunately, his NFL career was rather pathetic. Andre Ware was picked 7th overall by the Detroit Lions in 1990. Ware's 3-3 record as a starter and 51.6% completion percentage over just 14 games shows he was completely overwhelmed. With 1,112 passing career yards and 5 touchdowns against 8 interceptions, his production was completely unacceptable for a top 10 pick. These guys were some of the worst Heisman winners ever. The level above still is bad players, but maybe they had a moment or even a season of good football.
Level 2, flash in the pan.
These players were just slightly better than the crew below. They didn't have sustained success, but they did have a glimpse of being a good NFL player. To kick this off, we have Tim Tebow. Tebow mania swept the world by storm in 2011. He even had Skip Bayless say one of the craziest things ever.
He's a bigger draw than Kobe Bryant. Yeah!
Go to break.
Tebow made history in 2007 as the first sophomore to ever win the Heisman Trophy. He was absolutely dominant at Florida, throwing for 3,132 yards and 29 TDs, while rushing for 838 yards and 22 scores. The Broncos and Josh McDaniels would then trade up and get Tim Tebow 25th overall in 2010. The only reason he's at this level is because of one season. His NFL career had one magical stretch in 2011. Tebow led Denver on an improbable run, going 7-4 as a starter with 5 fourth-quarter comebacks and 5 game-winning drives. He even shocked the world by defeating the defending Super Bowl champion Pittsburgh Steelers in the playoffs. But the stats tell the real story. A 47.9 completion percentage and just 2,422 career yards had him out the league by 2012, bouncing to the Jets before retiring and trying to make a comeback with the Jags that eventually flamed out. Someone else who flamed out was RG3, though it wasn't all his fault. RG3 became the first Baylor Bear to win the Heisman in 2011 following a stellar junior season. He threw for 3,998 yards and 36 touchdowns while rushing for 644 yards and 9 more scores. He was then selected 2nd overall by the Washington Redskins in 2012. His rookie season in 2012 was magical. He went 9-6 as a starter, throwing for 3,200 yards and 20 touchdowns with just 5 interceptions, while rushing for 815 yards and 7 more touchdowns. He won Offensive Rookie of the Year and made the Pro Bowl. But that was it. Injuries derailed everything. His 16-26 record as a starter and inability to stay healthy made him a cautionary tale. By 2020, he was done. Just a one-year wonder. Next up, we got someone with one of the most unique football careers ever in Desmond Howard. Howard won Michigan's second Heisman in 1991 with one of the most electrifying seasons in college football history. He caught 62 passes for 985 yards and 19 touchdowns while leading the entire NCAA in receiving touchdowns. His iconic 93-yard punt return against Ohio State, punctuated by the famous Heisman pose, sealed the award. Desmond Howard was drafted 4th overall by the Washington Redskins in 1992. His NFL career as a receiver was a complete bust. Over 11 seasons, Howard managed just 123 receptions for 1,597 yards and 7 touchdowns. That's completely unacceptable production for a top 5 pick. However, he found redemption as a return specialist. In Super Bowl 31, Howard won MVP exclusively as a special teams player with a 99-yard kickoff return touchdown. Still as the 4th overall pick, his offensive production was a massive disappointment. Another massive disappointment is Bryce Young. He's still young and has time, but unless it's the Falcons, Bryce can really be hit or miss, and that's mostly miss. Young became Alabama's 4th Heisman winner and 2nd in a row when he claimed the 2021 trophy. At just 20 years old, he threw for 4,300 yards and a 68% completion percentage. He led the Crimson Tide to a 12-1 record, the SEC championship, and the top seed in the college football playoff. Bryce was then selected 1st overall by the Carolina Panthers in 2023. His NFL career has been maddeningly inconsistent. He's already been benched once, almost again earlier this season. Through 42 games, Young holds a 13-27 record as a starter with 7,617 passing yards and 44 TDs. One week he loses to the one-win Saints, the next he's setting franchise records with 448 yards against Atlanta. For a number 1 overall pick, we need more. He's shown flashes, but consistency remains elusive. Another player who only showed flashes because of injuries was Sam Bradford. Bradford became Oklahoma's 5th Heisman winner and 2nd consecutive sophomore to claim the trophy in 2008, throwing for 4,464 yards with 48 touchdowns. His Sooners went 12-1 and qualified for the BCS national title game, and because of his college success, Bradford went 1st overall to the St. Louis Rams in 2010. His NFL career was defined by injuries and inconsistency. He went 34, 48-1 as a starter over 8 seasons, showing he really never lived up to those expectations. His best moment came in 2016 with Minnesota, setting an NFL completion percentage record at the time at 71.6. But 19,449 career yards and constant injuries wasn't enough for the number 1 overall pick. And I just don't see it with Bo Jackson. I wanted to put him higher, but he's very similar to RG3 or Sam Bradford to me. He had the potential, he never fulfilled, and he's going to round out this level. Bo won Auburn's 2nd Heisman in 1985 and what was, at the time, the closest vote in Heisman history. Despite being slowed by injuries as a senior, he still rushed for 1,786 yards and 17 touchdowns. Bo was then selected 1st overall by the Tampa Bay Bucks in 1986, but he refused to sign there and then was drafted in the 7th round the following year by the Raiders. His NFL career was a flash in the pan. In just 38 games over 4 seasons, Bo rushed for 2,782 yards and 16 touchdowns. His 1989 season was his best, 950 yards and multiple 90-plus yard runs. But a devastating knee injury in the 1990 playoffs ended everything. He was done by age 28, an all-time athlete, but an at-best slightly above average running back. These guys maybe had a season or a moment of greatness. The crew above was more consistent throughout their career, even if they didn't have the highs of this group.
Level 3, solid career.
These guys were fine players in the league. We have Reggie Bush here to start. Now, based on his hype, you were hoping he'd be much better. He was solid for nearly a decade, but never anything crazy and was a bit disappointing. Bush became USC's 3rd Heisman winner in 4 years when he claimed the 2005 trophy as a junior. He rushed for 1,658 yards and 15 touchdowns while adding 31 receptions for 383 yards and 2 more scores. He registered 8 games with over 100 rushing yards, and against the Bulldogs, he totaled 513 all-purpose yards, the 2nd highest total in NCAA history. Because of this hype, he started dating Kim K and was selected 2nd overall by the New Orleans Saints in 2006. Over 11 seasons, he rushed for 5,490 yards and 36 touchdowns, while catching 477 passes for 3,598 yards and 18 more scores, making an All-Pro as a returner. He won a Super Bowl ring with the New Orleans Saints and played nearly a decade in the league. With the 2nd overall pick with that much hype, he never became the Barry Sanders-Marshall Faulk hybrid everyone expected. He was just solid. Someone else who may be on that track is Caleb Williams. I figured when he was drafted, he'd walk in and be top 10 easily. It's hard to blame him all for his rookie season. Eberflus and Waldron are war criminals. But he has to take some of the heat, and even with the Bears winning more consistently, Caleb has shown flashes, but still nothing crazy. Williams became USC's 8th Heisman winner in 2022 following a spectacular sophomore season after transferring from Oklahoma. He threw for 4,075 yards on 66% completion with 37 touchdowns and just 4 interceptions. Because of his crazy college career, he was drafted first overall above another Heisman winner who we'll talk about later. Through his first 29 NFL games, Williams holds a 14-15 record as a starter with 6,263 passing yards and 37 touchdowns. But even with the Bears' current 9-3 record and holding the number 1 seed at the time of this recording, Caleb's completion percentage sits at just 58% with 2,722 yards through 12 games. He's shown flashes of brilliance, but consistency remains elusive. It's still early, but with all that said, he's by far the best Bears QB over the past 30 years, maybe even ever. Someone who's also probably their franchise's best QB is Kyler Murray. Murray became Oklahoma's 7th Heisman winner and 2nd consecutive in 2018 following Baker Mayfield. In his only season as a full-time starter, he was sensational, completing 69% of his passes for 4,361 yards and 42 touchdowns, while rushing for 1,000 yards and 12 more scores. Kyler was then picked first overall by the Arizona Cardinals in 2019, disregarding his small stature. Murray's 38-48-1 record as a starter through 6 seasons shows he never quite lived up to the hype. He won Offensive Rookie of the Year in 2019 and made 2 Pro Bowls, eventually getting to the playoffs in 2021, but injuries have derailed him constantly. At 5'8", he's always dealing with nagging issues and has been benched for the remainder of this season, probably never suiting up for the Cardinals again. Vinny Testaverde had a long, mediocre career. He became Miami's first Heisman winner in 1986 following an undefeated regular season. He threw for 2,557 yards and 26 TDs, while adding 4 rushing scores. He was then drafted first overall by the Tampa Bay Bucks in 1987. His NFL career was long but inconsistent. Over 21 seasons, Testaverde went 90, 123, and 1 as a starter, with 56,233 passing yards and 275 touchdowns against 267 interceptions. 6 years in Tampa, bouncing between teams, never sustaining excellence, just a solid, long career. And the same would go with this person to end this level in Jim Plunkett. Plunkett became Stanford's first Heisman winner in 1970 following a stellar senior season. He threw for 2,715 yards and 19 touchdowns while leading his team to the Rose Bowl. He capped off his college career by leading Stanford to a 27-17 upset over the undefeated number 1 Ohio State in that Rose Bowl. Plunkett was selected first overall by the New England Patriots in 1971, and his career was a tale of 2 halves. Plunkett went 23-38 with New England and San Francisco, looking like a complete bust. But then his resurrection came in Oakland. He won 2 Super Bowls with the Raiders in 1980 and 1983, earning Super Bowl MVP in one of those. His 72-72 career record as a starter and 25,882 passing yards shows solid production. These guys were all fine players, nothing special, but okay. The level above, we have some really good players.
Level 4. Really good.
These guys typically had better and more consistent peaks than the crew below, starting with an underrated player in Carson Palmer. Palmer became USC's 5th Heisman winner in 2002. He threw for 3,639 yards and 32 touchdowns while completing 62.9% of his passes. He led the Trojans to a 10-2 record and their highest ranking since 1979. Carson was then drafted first overall by the Cincinnati Bengals in 2003. Palmer went 92, 88-1 as a starter over 15 seasons, with 46,247 passing yards and 294 touchdowns. He made 3 Pro Bowls, earned second-team All-Pro in 2015 with the Arizona Cardinals. Palmer was a consistently good quarterback who had multiple excellent seasons across multiple teams. Another underrated gem was Mark Ingram. He was better than Reggie Bush, but not as good as Alvin Kamara, so I think he kinda gets lost in the middle. Ingram became Alabama's first Heisman winner in 2009 in the closest vote in the award's 75-year history. He rushed for 1,542 yards and 15 touchdowns. He was just 9 days shy of his 20th birthday when he won, making him the youngest Heisman winner at that time. Ingram was the 28th overall pick by the New Orleans Saints in 2011. Over 12 seasons, Ingram rushed for 8,111 yards and 65 TDs. He made 3 Pro Bowls and became the Saints' all-time leading rusher. Then in 2019 with Baltimore, he rushed for 1,018 yards and 15 total touchdowns. A consistently productive back throughout his entire career. And maybe I should have called this the underrated level because we have Devonta Smith here as well. In Philly as a wide receiver 2, who can easily be the wide receiver 1 on many teams. Smith became the first wide receiver in almost 3 decades to win the Heisman in 2020 after turning in one of the most impressive seasons ever by an NCAA pass catcher. The 6'1", 175-pound senior led the country with 117 receptions for 1,856 yards and 23 touchdowns. the most receiving yards and receptions by any Heisman winner in history. The Eagles would then trade up for Devonta Smith with the 10th overall pick in 2021. His NFL career has been really good through 4+ seasons. Smith has 368 receptions for 4,813 yards and 30 touchdowns. He's been a consistent 1,000-yard receiver, posting 3 straight seasons over that mark in 2021 all the way to 2023. He helped the Eagles reach the Super Bowl in 2022, catching 7 receptions for 100 yards in the loss. He would then catch the dagger in the 2024 Super Bowl, proving doubters wrong about his slight frame. Someone with a crazy story was Ricky Williams. Williams became Texas's second Heisman winner in 1998 following a record-breaking senior season. He rushed for 2,124 yards and 27 touchdowns, while adding 262 yards and another score through the air. The Saints infamously gave up the entire draft for Ricky Williams in 1999. His NFL career was really good despite the chaos. Over 11 seasons, Williams rushed for over 10,000 yards and 66 touchdowns, while adding 2,600 yards and 8 more scores through the air. He made 1 Pro Bowl and earned first-team All-Pro honors in 2002 when he rushed for 1,853 yards and 16 touchdowns. His career was derailed by retirements and suspensions, but his peak was absolutely elite. Now we start getting into some honorable mentions as well, starting with Doug Flutie. Flutie was drafted in the 11th round by the Los Angeles Rams in 1985. He became Boston College's first Heisman winner in 1984, throwing for 3,454 yards and 27 touchdowns. While he had a more illustrious CFL career, his NFL career wasn't bad either. He threw for 14,715 yards with 86 TDs, and his famous Hail Mary to Gerald Phelan beat Miami 47-45, cementing his legacy. George Rogers was drafted first overall by the New Orleans Saints in 1981. Rogers became South Carolina's first Heisman winner in 1980, rushing for 1,781 yards and 14 touchdowns. He was an absolute dog in the NFL for his brief stint, making multiple Pro Bowls and a first-team All-Pro. He was 6th in MVP voting as a rookie running back. He went out on top in 1987, winning a Super Bowl with the Redskins and calling it a career after that due to injuries. Another Washington player here is Jaden Daniels, selected 2nd overall by the Washington Commanders in 2024. Daniels became LSU's second Heisman winner in 2023, throwing for 3,812 yards and 40 touchdowns. He would then go on to have one of the greatest rookie seasons of all time, throwing for 3,500 yards and totaling 31 touchdowns, leading Washington to the NFC Championship game for the first time since the 90s. He's been mostly injured this season, so not really sure where he goes from here, but that first season was legendary. Lastly, we have Herschel Walker, known for mostly being in one of the worst trades in NFL history. Herschel Walker was a 5th-round pick by the Dallas Cowboys in 1985. Walker became Georgia's second Heisman winner in 1982 as a junior, rushing for 1,752 yards and 16 touchdowns. His NFL career was really good over 12 seasons, 8,225 rushing yards, 4,859 receiving yards, while adding 61 rushing TDs. He made 2 Pro Bowls and 2 All-Pros, though he could never quite sustain that excellence. In the next level, we get to some objectively great NFL players.
Level 5. Great players.
These players had elite careers, just missing out on the Hall of Fame, but definitely Hall of Very Good. Starting with the QB who had one of the best Heisman and MVP campaigns ever in Cam Newton. Newton became Auburn's 3rd Heisman winner in 2010, who threw for 2,589 yards and 28 touchdowns, while rushing for 1,409 yards and 20 more scores, as Auburn went undefeated and won the SEC championship. He then led the Tigers to a victory over Oregon in the BCS title game, winning Auburn's first national championship since 1957. He parlayed that into the first overall pick in the legendary 2015 draft class. Newton went 75, 68, and 1 as a starter over 11 seasons with 32,382 passing yards and 194 touchdowns. He rushed for 5,628 yards and 75 more touchdowns, the most rushing TDs by a QB in NFL history. He won NFL MVP in 2015, throwing for 3,837 yards and 35 touchdowns, while rushing for 636 yards and 10 more scores. He made 3 Pro Bowls, earned first-team All-Pro, and led Carolina to Super Bowl 50. A truly great dual-threat quarterback. Eddie George was just different in the league. George became Ohio State's 6th Heisman winner in 1995 following a dominant senior season. He rushed for 1,826 yards and 23 touchdowns while averaging 152.2 yards per game. Eddie George was selected 14th overall by the Houston Oilers in 1996, and over 9 seasons, George rushed for 10,441 yards and 68 touchdowns, while adding 268 receptions for 2,227 yards and 10 more scores. He made 4 Pro Bowls and earned first-team All-Pro in 2000 when he rushed for 1,509 yards and 16 total touchdowns on a staggering 403 carries. Someone else who was staggering was Billy Sims. Sims became Oklahoma's 6th Heisman winner in 1978 following a dominant junior season. He led the nation in rushing with 1,762 yards while averaging 7 yards per carry and scoring 20 touchdowns. Billy Sims was the #1 overall pick by the Detroit Lions in 1980. His NFL career was great, but tragically short. Over 5 seasons, Sims rushed for 5,106 yards and 42 touchdowns, while adding 186 receptions for 2,072 yards and 5 more scores. He made 3 Pro Bowls and 1 Offensive Rookie of the Year in 1980, with 1,303 rushing yards and 16 total touchdowns. His 1981 season was elite, 1,437 rushing yards and 15 total TDs, but a devastating knee injury in 1984 ended his career at just 29. Pure greatness cut short. Someone else who runs that risk is Joe Burrow. Burrow turned in one of the most prolific seasons in college football history in 2019, becoming LSU's second Heisman winner and first since Billy Cannon in 1959. He passed for 4,715 yards and 48 touchdowns with just 6 interceptions while completing 77.9% of his passes, the best in Heisman history. He led LSU to a 15-0 record and national championship, throwing for 60 touchdowns and 5,671 total yards. Because of the greatness of that final LSU season, Bengals took him with the first overall pick in 2020. His NFL career has been great through 6 seasons when healthy. Burrow holds a 41-30-1 record as a starter with 19,451 passing yards and 144 touchdowns. He's made 2 Pro Bowls, led the Bengals to a Super Bowl, and won 2 Comeback Player of the Year awards. When healthy, he's one of the best QBs in the NFL. These are all Hall of Very Good players. Next up are Heisman winners who will make the Hall of Fame.
Level 6 Hall of Fame.
These guys were just a step above the level below and a notch below the top group. They'll make the Hall of Fame if they aren't in already. Starting with Lamar Jackson. Jackson won Louisville's first Heisman in 2016 by producing one of the most impressive seasons in award history. At just 19 years, 337 days old, he became the youngest Heisman winner ever. He accumulated 4,928 yards of total offense with 51 touchdowns, 30 passing, and 21 rushing. His 1,538 rushing yards are the most ever by a Heisman winning quarterback. The Ravens then traded back up in the first round to pick Lamar Jackson in 2018 with the 32nd overall pick. Jackson holds a 75-28 record as a starter with 21,900 passing yards and 181 TDs. He's won 2 NFL MVPs in 2019 and 2023, made 4 Pro Bowls, and earned 3 first-team All-Pro selections. His 2019 MVP season was legendary. 3,127 passing yards, 36 TDs, and 1,206 rushing yards, and becoming the youngest to win the award at that time. He's revolutionized the quarterback position with his dual threat ability, a future Hall of Famer. His teammate is on this level as well in Derrick Henry. Henry became Alabama's second Heisman winner in 2015, joining Mark Ingram. He set the SEC single-season rushing record with 1,986 yards and tied the conference mark with 23 rushing touchdowns. Derrick Henry would somehow fall to the second round before being scooped up by the Tennessee Titans in 2016. Henry has rushed for 12,354 yards and 116 TDs. He's made 5 Pro Bowls, earned 2 first-team All-Pro selections, and won 2020 Offensive Player of the Year when he rushed for 2,027 yards and 17 TDs. A precursor to Henry's dominance was Tony Dorsett. Dorsett won Pittsburgh's first Heisman in 1976. He rushed for 1,948 yards and 21 TDs in the regular season, leading the nation. Tony Dorsett would then become the second overall pick by Dallas in 1977, rushing for 12,739 yards and 77 touchdowns, while adding 398 receptions for 3,554 yards. He made 4 Pro Bowls, earned first-team All-Pro in 1981, and won the Super Bowl as a rookie. He was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 1994, a true legend. Another legend is Marcus Allen. Allen became USC's 4th Heisman winner in 1981, becoming the first player to rush for over 2,000 yards in a single season. Because of that dominance, Allen was then drafted 10th overall by the Los Angeles Raiders in 1982. He rushed for 12,243 yards and 123 touchdowns, while adding 5,411 receiving yards and 21 total scores. He won 1984 Super Bowl MVP, 1985 NFL MVP, and made 6 Pro Bowls with 2 first-team All-Pro selections. He's the only player to win a national title, Heisman, Super Bowl MVP, and NFL MVP. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2003. We lastly have another Raiders legend in Tim Brown. Brown became Notre Dame's 7th Heisman winner in 1987, utilizing his ability as a pass receiver, rusher, and return specialist. He ranked 6th nationally in all-purpose yardage and returned 6 kicks for touchdowns during his career. He was then drafted 6th overall by the Los Angeles Raiders in 1988. Brown caught 1,094 receptions for 14,934 yards and 100 TDs. He made 9 Pro Bowls and earned second-team All-Pro in 1997 and played in the Super Bowl in the early 2000s. He was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2015, a Raiders legend and one of the greatest receivers ever. These guys were all-time greats, just not the greatest of all time, which is what we have next.
Level 7, the best.
We've only got 5 here, starting with the Juice, O.J. Simpson. Simpson won USC's second Heisman in 1968, following one of the most dominant seasons in college football history. He rushed for 1,709 yards and 22 TDs in the regular season, while carrying the ball an NCAA record at the time 334 times. He'd be the Bills' first overall pick in 1969, rushing for 11,236 yards and 61 touchdowns, while adding 2,142 receiving yards. He made 6 Pro Bowls, earned 5 first-team All-Pro selections, and won 1973 NFL MVP. His 1973 season was one of the greatest rushing performances ever, 2,003 yards in just 14 games. He's the only player to ever rush for 2,000 yards in a 14-game season. Inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1985, becoming one of the greatest running backs ever. One of the best former era QBs was Roger Staubach. Staubach became the second Naval Academy player in 4 years to win the Heisman in 1963. He threw for 1,474 yards as a junior, while leading the Navy to a ranking of second in the country. Roger Staubach would fall all the way to the 10th round before being picked up by the Cowboys in 1964. After 4 years in the Navy, including a tour in Vietnam, his NFL career was legendary over 11 seasons. Staubach went 85-29 as a starter with 22,700 passing yards and 153 touchdowns. He made 6 Pro Bowls, won 2 Super Bowls, and earned Super Bowl MVP in one of those. Inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1985. A specimen of pure dominance was Earl Campbell. Campbell became Texas's first Heisman winner in 1977, leading the Longhorns to an undefeated regular season. He rushed for 1,744 yards and 19 touchdowns while leading the nation in rushing and scoring. Campbell would become the first overall pick in 1978 because of that to the Houston Oilers. In the NFL, he rushed for 9,470 yards and 74 touchdowns while averaging 4.3 yards per carry. He won 1979 NFL MVP, 3 Offensive Player of the Year awards, made 5 Pro Bowls, and earned 3 first-team All-Pro selections. He was a physical force who punished defenders, being inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1991. Speaking of defenders, we have one of the best defensive players ever in Charles Woodson. Woodson became Michigan's 3rd Heisman winner in 1997, making history as the only defensive player ever to win the award. He intercepted 7 passes and collected 43 total tackles while catching 11 passes for 231 yards and a touchdown on offense. He'd then become the 4th overall pick by the Oakland Raiders in 1998. Woodson recorded 65 interceptions for 966 yards and 11 touchdowns while making 1,220 tackles. He won 1998 Defensive Rookie of the Year, 2009 Defensive Player of the Year, made 9 Pro Bowls, and earned 4 first-team All-Pro selections. He won the Super Bowl with the Green Bay Packers in 2011, inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2021, becoming one of the best to ever do it. Lastly, we probably have the best running back to ever do it in Barry Sanders. Sanders won Oklahoma State's first Heisman in 1988, following arguably the greatest season in college football history. The 5'8", 200-pounder rushed for 2,628 yards and 37 rushing TDs, while averaging 238.9 yards per game. He added a punt return TD and a kickoff return TD, bringing his total to 39 touchdowns. Barry Sanders would then be the 3rd pick by the Detroit Lions in the historic 1989 NFL draft class. His NFL career was legendary over 10 seasons. Sanders rushed for 15,269 yards and 99 touchdowns, while averaging 5 yards per carry. He won 1989 Offensive Rookie of the Year, 1997 NFL MVP, made 10 Pro Bowls, earned 6 first-team All-Pro selections. He retired at age 30, still in his prime, and was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2004. And so there you have it, the 7 levels of former Heisman Trophy winners. Subscribe if you're new, and thanks for watching.